if we could address you directly right now.
Everything comes full circle.
That's number one.
I don't tell him what questions to ask me.
There are a lot of people around town that have the same question.
Brush my teeth. I'm gonna get washed in the morning.
I can't confirm or deny.
You know, just keep going a little bit longer here, Mike. Keep going a little bit longer.
New Bridgeport, ESPN Radio.
Cedric can't hear
Tomorrow's
you guys.
broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Okay. Well, I'll cue you. I'll cue you, Cedric. Yeah.
Welcome to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7 and on Twitch at QSportsTalk.com. My name is Cedric Derecho, and I'm here with Teddy Caputo and Jack Siskin. Teddy and Jack, how are you doing today?
It's been a pretty good week, Cedric. I think in our last couple of shows you might want to prompt one of us at a time, but outside of that, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, Cedric. The semester's getting pretty busy, but I'm glad to be on Newhouse Afternoons talking to the Syracuse folks. It's a nice little break in my schedule.
We've got a lot to talk about on this show. We've got New York sports, we've got March Madness bracket discussions, and we've got Syracuse sports, of course. Starting with Syracuse basketball, a lot of players entering the transfer portal this past week, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, I want to start this out because this is something I was saying when we first started back in February as a show, or back in January, excuse me. And Donnie Freeman's back.
Yeah.
Which is what,
And J.J. Starling.
And, well, J.J. Starling, I never saw him leaving. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I didn't even think it was up for debate.
Fair.
I was surprised they even bothered to post it. I'm just like, yeah, he'll be back. That was honestly my opinion. I didn't think he was going to the portal. But, getting Donnie Freeman and J.J. Starling back is huge. And anything that Syracuse has lost in terms of, I would love to have Chopper Moore next year. I would even like to have, I shouldn't say even, but I'd like to have a shooter like Chris Bell coming off the bench. But there's only so many minutes and so many dollars to go around. And with Sadiq White and Kyan Anthony coming in, we had to expect something like this.
Mm. Yeah, and just to clarify, I'm sure many of you know, but it's Elijah Chopper Moore, Chance Westry, Chris Bell, and Kyle Cuff, who've entered the transfer portal. And it's interesting. I just heard on the show yesterday that Kyle Cuff sounded like he wanted to stay, and all of a sudden he left. So that's very interesting, and there's some theories about why that may be the case.
What was it he said?
So he was quoted in a Syracuse.com article basically saying, I'm going to stay. I got 2 more years of eligibility. I'm going to stay. And then all of a sudden now he's entered the portal. So maybe it was because he was, pushed out with the new talent coming in. He didn't think he was going to see the floor. But that's also maybe why Chris Bell transferred too, because Chris Bell, prominent player about not really last year, but like 2 years ago when he was starting, and then he got demoted to the bench. So, I'm just curious, though, what you guys think, because, again, Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White are coming in, and J.J. Starling's returning. Do we think that's going to mess with J.J. Starling's play and his starting role?
Well, here's the thing with Chris Bell. The writing was on the wall with him. I mean, me and you were down in Charlotte. We were watching the team play in the ACC tournament. And you know what? Honestly, Bell couldn't hit a shot.
Yeah.
And he was a bit of a liability defensively.
Yeah.
And it was clear that he wasn't happy with his role, what his role became this season. So that's not a surprise. I mean, Kyle Cuff, this is probably a player who wants a little bit more playing time coming off the bench. He's streaky. He's hit or miss. He'll have games where he'll really provide a spark for Syracuse off the bench, and then the ACC tournament, minimal impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, Chris Bell, his body language was pretty terrible. And when you have one player with really bad body language, it can rub off on the rest of the team. Yeah. If you're missing a shot, you got to hold your head up high and play good defense. I know that's what Pitino preaches at St. John's. And look, I mean, of course, they didn't have good success, and we'll get to that. But, at the same time, you got to just keep playing. You got to keep fighting.
I think when you say Pitino and you're talking about holding your head up high after missing shots, that's somewhat apt and also somewhat, in his case, it's a little ironic because his team can't shoot.
Yeah.
They just can't. And we saw that's why Arkansas downed them. But, we're talking about Chris Bell here. We're talking about his streakiness, how his Syracuse career ended. If I'm being entirely honest, I don't think it's all on Chris Bell. I think the reality is they didn't come into this season with enough floor spacing. They didn't have an answer at point guard. And the offense was broken because of that. And Bell, as a sophomore, hit 42% of his threes when we had Judah Mintz, and by we I mean Syracuse, had Judah Mintz at point guard. Judah Mintz is gone. Offense lacks continuity. Bell's production dips. He moves to the bench, and after shooting 21%, from three in his first 13 games, shot 42% from three the rest of the way. This is a guy who can make an impact somewhere else. It's just not going to be Syracuse.
Yeah. But I want to know what you guys are thinking, because obviously Donnie Freeman's back, J.J. Starling, obviously, as you said, Jack, and maybe not a surprise that he's back, but you got Sadiq White and Kyan Anthony coming in. Like, what is the outlook on the team next year? Do you think that is going to attract more guys coming in from the transfer portal? Do you think that will help the recruitment process?
They have to spend, at least from Coach Autry's perspective, they have to spend every dollar they can, right? This is make or break. It's been 4 years since they went dancing. That is, in the history of this program, I don't remember the last time that happened.
Yeah,
it's unacceptable.
Here's the thing. With the Syracuse class of 2025, here's an interesting stat. The graduating seniors at Syracuse this year, this will be the first Syracuse team in over 50 years where a graduating class has not experienced a single March Madness appearance. So the graduating class of 2025, from freshman through senior years, these kids here that have been here the last 4 years did not experience dancing.
How many of them played?
Well, obviously just the players on the team.
No. How many of them? How many 4-year players at Syracuse that you're talking about that didn't go dancing? How many of them actually played meaningful minutes in the lineup?
No, I'm talking about the student body. I'm talking about just the undergraduates here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's it's crazy, but there's 3 rotation players who are heading out.
Yeah.
2 of them played prominent roles. In Chance Westry's case, unfortunately, it seems like he's had trouble staying on the court since his injuries at Auburn. We, of course, wish him the best, but none of this should be surprising.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, there might be a couple transfers who might want to come through the portal just because of the fact that Sadiq White and Kyan Anthony are coming here.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the 29th and 32nd ranked recruits in the country. You got Sadiq White, who is explosive on both ends of the floor. And then you got Kyan Anthony. I mean, just his dad's presence alone. I know that NIL obviously playing a huge role in this in Syracuse. So he's going to have to pay to draw these transfers in. But don't forget about the other freshmen coming in. You got Luke Fennell, the 6'6" combo guard out of Australia, and Aaron Womack, a 6'5" wing coming out of Wisconsin. This is a good incoming freshman class.
Yeah, no, good incoming freshman class for the backcourt. One thing I will say is we maybe need to strengthen the front court a little bit. We still have Naheem McLeod and Petar Mastorovich on the team, but other than that, we lost a lot of the front court. I mean, you're getting Freeman back, but no more Eddie Lampkin and no more Jair Davis.
No more Jaquan Carlos.
No more.
Well, that's a point guard.
Yeah, that's the backcourt.
But
no, we do need a true point guard too. That's a good point.
Syracuse didn't have one last season.
But I will say this, because Cedric and I were at the ACC tournament. We saw the postseason woes that Syracuse had, at least in that last game against SMU, which we had some high hopes for. And of course, it was a disappointment. Cedric had asked a question about the lineup next year, and of course, Coach Autry had said that there's uncertainties because of the whole transfer portal situation, and we've already seen that with 4 guys leaving. But also, just because of that, getting the fans excited for next year, because this was the worst season that we've had in 56 years, ever since we became ever since we dropped our independent status. This has been the worst year that we've ever had. So we basically, with Donnie Freeman and J.J. Starling coming back, and now having Sadiq White and Kyan Anthony, there is something hopefully the fans will be excited about. Autry, when I asked him about it, didn't really answer me on that, because it is a difficult question to answer, but especially after a loss. But you gotta you got to get the fans excited. Hopefully this will get them excited. Even what Donnie Freeman said, he said, I believe in what Coach Autry will do with this team. So hopefully that gets fans excited if your top guy from last year is coming back because he believes in the coach.
The question is this enough of a team surrounding Sadiq White and Kiyan Anthony coming in? Because just because you have two really talented freshmen doesn't translate to success. I mean, I did my undergraduate at Rutgers University.
Yeah.
They had the two most talented freshmen in the country this year, with the exception of Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. And that was a team that finished under 500 just like Syracuse.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why I think we need to strengthen the front court, because other than Eddie Lampkin, we had no true threat rebounding the ball. And without Lampkin, we would have gotten mauled on the boards in most of our games. So we really need to strengthen the front court, whether it's incoming freshmen or people off the transfer portal. I think that's the biggest hole we need to fill. The shoes of Eddie Lampkin need to be filled for sure.
Yeah, and there's a few guys, I think, just taking a quick look at who's out there in the portal. It's too early for us to know who they're talking to, right? Elliot Cadeau has a do not reach out to note in the portal. He's already decided where he's going. Now, Syracuse does need a point guard. If it's Elliot Cadeau, I think a lot of fans will be happy. But let's look at the guys who aren't spoken for, right?
Let me just add this really quick. So Naheem is actually not coming back. So we don't have him either.
So he's in the portal.
I'm seeing a comment in the chat that's saying that he's gone. So I don't know if that's like official news or if that's just speculation. But anyway. So what were you saying, Jack?
There are centers in the portal, and the number one guy for me would be Magoon Guath from San Diego State, Mountain West Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year. Really big center, 2.6 blocks per game. That physical defensive presence that Syracuse needs in the paint.
Yeah.
But there are some things to work out with this team. We can't even get to point guard until we figure out how you account for that and set your starting lineup. Because Freeman's going to be in there. White's going to be in there. Are you bringing Starling or Anthony off the bench? I would assume not. So is Starling the point guard next year? These are all questions that have to be answered. Or are we using Starling as a sixth man? There's a lot of questions here.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about Syracuse basketball? I know that there's something football related with SU we wanted to talk about.
Well, I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding this team going into next year, and I also think there's a lot of even more question marks perhaps surrounding the football team going into next season. So we have the big, is that official now, Fran Brown, Deion Sanders spring game in Boulder, Colorado.
It's official that they've filed for it. The NCAA still has to approve it.
Yeah, but I think that would be huge, especially to put Syracuse football on the map, because obviously Deion Sanders, when he got hired at Colorado, put them on the map. Fran Brown has absolutely put us on the map. But I just think it's a great way to, shine a spotlight on both the programs, especially our program. They're both like-minded dudes. There's a lot of similitude between them, especially men of faith. And so I just think that this could really help attract a lot of players to the program who, maybe like the coaching styles of Brown and Sanders.
Well, I think Fran Brown definitely got his players to buy in. I mean, they exceeded expectations, no doubt. A team that finished top 20 in the country. But here's the thing. A lot of your best guys are leaving. And so that's a lot of production to replace. And do you think, either Teddy or Jack, you can answer this, do you think they've done so through the transfer portal and their incoming freshmen?
I think that last year they had a lot of name recognition because they brought in Kyle McCord. But if you look at the rest of the guys they brought in, with the exception of Fadil Diggs, who, pass rush from the SEC, had good, not great numbers at his last stop. I believe that was A&M. Feel free to fact check me on that. But, Jackson Meeks didn't do much at Georgia, right? He wasn't playing. And you look at their receiving class this year and you wonder why that was. You really do. I understand why he wasn't playing over Ladd McConkney. But some of the guys they had playing this year, well, they're the reason that they didn't go further in the playoffs. They are. But I like Ricky Collins, excuse me. He's an Elite 11 quarterback, just like McCord was coming out of high school. He's got 3 years of eligibility. He's mobile. If you watch him, he's got a cannon. You can see that on his high school tape even. And I'm not as worried as other people. Do I think they're going to win 10 games this year? No. But look at what they're doing recruiting in 26, 27, 28. This is a program that is recruiting like a top 25 team. And that's what we should be focused on. So don't worry about whether or not you know everybody on the roster now. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because Fran Brown has shown us one thing. He'll make you remember.
Mm. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, to my understanding, there hasn't been like a whole lot of traction. I've been looking into it, and I'm not seeing. Well, we have added here Nikhil Bertrand. He is offensive line, so big guy. So, hopefully that'll strengthen the offensive line. I guess the one thing I'll say for now, until we really see more movement, is we are getting Trevor Pena back, which I think is at least a good starting point, because we are losing Jackson Meeks to the draft, Orende Gadsden, McCord, LaQuint Allen. So these are guys that have to be replaced. But Trevor Pena, who is a huge part of that offense, I think that's at least a good starting point for this team next season, especially with Ricky Collins if he does win the starting job.
He's the highest paid quarterback on this roster. They can say they haven't chosen a starter yet, and I believe them that if he doesn't perform, that he won't be the starter.
Yeah.
But I think Fran Brown has earned enough trust through year one that I believe he's spending this money right, because look at the transfers he brought in. We forget how many of these guys he brought in were transfers.
Meeks.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Savion Washington was a transfer too. And while the Syracuse offensive line was far from perfect, these are guys that didn't have much eligibility remaining. It was one and done. Now he's got guys like Bertrand and Collins who got, they got years left. That is a good thing for their development, and it's a good thing for Syracuse.
Here's the thing, though. Do you think the future is brighter for Syracuse football or basketball right now?
Who, me? Oh, all right. I mean,
I personally think football. I think we have a higher ceiling right now than the basketball, just because, we were pretty close. I mean, if we had maybe won one more game, we could have been competing for the ACC championship. So I really think that we bring in good guys from the transfer portal. We get good recruits. I truly think SU football could compete for an ACC championship this year.
I agree. I do want to note that when I said who, me, I expected you to say yes. I just want to point that out. But look, this is a team with a lot of talent. I don't think we should be, we shouldn't put them in a box. Both teams have bright futures.
After this short 4-minute break, we'll be back with New York Sports Talk. You're listening to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7. Watch us on Twitch at qsportstalk.com.
Okay.
I can't hear Jordan at all. Is anybody able to... Yeah, I don't know if Jordan can hear me, but I can't hear Jordan or the commercials or cues at all.
I promise you, Jordan, you're not missing much.
Oh my God!
Hey, what are the FCC rules?
You said they're laughing at his headset, right?
I think they're enjoying it. Yeah.
No.
I can't.
But yeah, so Jordan, is it a problem with his headset, or is it something you guys can fix? Because he's saying he can't hear anything.
And this is not the first time that's happened either. It usually cuts in and out, but I can't hear anything. Period. Like until you tapped me, I didn't even know when to talk.
Jordan,
okay. Wait, has this been a thing? Like,
all right. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
What did Jordan say?
That's
all
fair
right,
enough.
that's fair, Jordan. And you did mention it to us. I remember you talking to us about that before break.
It's something that somebody here has to fix.
Yeah, and
that's basically the short answer.
Yeah, we don't mean to be complaining to you about it either. I do want to make that clear.
But we do have some people on Twitch. I don't want to leave them.
Yeah, let's pivot to that.
'Cause they're hearing our headphone woes. But yeah, any thoughts, you guys? I mean, we kind of just posed a question here to ourselves, but what are your thoughts? Is there more potential for the Syracuse football program going forward or the Syracuse basketball program? Let's hear it in the chat.
By the way, I thought when you said that we had people on Twitch, we had comments. Worth mentioning that Kevin Willard, the Maryland Terrapins head coach, also a New York native, actually, Huntington, New York, right around my neck of the woods on Long Island, but he mentioned that these kids in the portal are asking for, and this is a quote from John Fanta, $2 to $3 million. That's what they're asking for. And he's complaining about it. It's been as badly of a rule implement as ever, and agents are taking advantage of it. And
like contractually, like they want the school to pay them $2 to $3 million to come.
They want the NIL funds to pay them.
Okay. Yeah. They haven't worked out the schools yet.
I mean, the school... The part of the reason they have the Cuse Champions Fund is because of the fact that the schools are going to be allowed to pay now, I believe. And NIL is complicated. It's not my area of expertise, but also worth mentioning, Donovan Dent, the Mountain West Player of the Year, or rather, Mountain West Point Guard of the Year, I think, is entering the portal. 20 points
really?
And 6.4 assists.
Is it because Pitino left for Xavier?
It's 100% because Pitino left for Xavier, but money talks. So take your $53 million NIL fund and go get a point guard.
What if he transfers to Xavier?
Wait a minute.
That's what I'm saying.
Are you saying Richard Pitino left New Mexico to go to Xavier?
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, wow. That must have been, like, really recent.
Today,
that was yesterday.
Or yesterday, yeah.
Wow. Man, I thought he was really doing something special with New Mexico.
Yeah, he did some... He also did something special with...
Tap me again.
He did something special with Minnesota, too. He left there, too. That's what coaches do.
Well, he got fired from Minnesota.
Did he get fired from Minnesota?
Yeah, he got fired.
He did get fired from Minnesota.
Yeah, it was definitely a Pitino problem, not a Minnesota problem. That's not a basketball school.
I don't know.
Is it really a football school either?
It's not. It's a hockey school.
So, New York sports, right? Or are we doing March Madness?
New York sports block.
Okay.
Yep. March Madness is block 3.
Yep.
ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7 and on QSportsTalk.com. This hour of Newhouse Afternoon is powered by Drivers Village Cicero. Go to dvoffers.com for more info. So, guys, opening day tomorrow. The Yankees are at home against the Milwaukee Brewers. Let's start with them. What do you guys think is the outlook on the Yankees coming into this season?
Well, I guess I'll get this started. The Yankees, they, of course, to any New York Yankees baseball fan at this point, knows that they're going to be without Garrett Cole for the whole season. They are most likely are going to be without Giancarlo Stanton for the whole season. He's got tennis elbow in both of his arms, and for a power hitter, that's not good. Like, if he has to get surgery, he's getting shut down. DJ LeMahieu was about to miss a month at least, and then Paul Goldschmidt just came back from injury, I believe, but he's getting older and could have injury problems. So this Yankee squad is a little bit depleted, at least right now. So I think they're going to struggle at the beginning of the season, but the Yankees are the Yankees in terms of they did lose Juan Soto to a big bat, so they have to make up for that somehow. They did lose Anthony Rizzo as well. They still have Aaron Judge, of course, but the point is since they didn't have to pay Juan Soto all that money, they got money to spend. So if the Yankees start struggling early on, they're going to spend money to do better and really get themselves back into contention.
They could spend money to get back into contention, but if you're going to spend that full amount, then you should have just signed Juan Soto. Because I hate to be the one to say this, and I'm a Mets fan.
Yeah, they tried, though. I mean, they just got outbid, basically.
Part of it was about deferred money. Part of it was about a willingness to pay. And, you know, there are Yankees fans out there that are going to say that they wouldn't have changed the offer. I don't believe them, but they'll say it. And here's the problem, though. You don't want to spend that money on a bat, but you're going to go out and spend it on a left-handed pitcher, Max Fried, who's entering his age 30 season. You know, the risk of losing another starting pitcher to injury is not minuscule. That's why a lot of teams don't want to pay aging pitchers. I question whether they made the right decision. I think we're going to see in Milwaukee that they didn't. And they're already down Garrett Cole. This rotation is not going to be their saving grace.
I mean, and without Stanton and without Rizzo, I mean, that's just almost an impossible amount of production to replace. I mean, this is a team that took it all the way to the World Series, losing in 5, last season. And are they even the best team in the AL East right now? A lot of people would say no. A lot of people would say that the Boston Red Sox are better. A lot of people would say that the Baltimore Orioles are perhaps better. So is this a Yankees team that... Are you confident in this team making the playoffs this year?
I'm confident they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to go to the World Series, though. And I don't know if they'll even win the division. They won't by with the wild card. Because you got teams like the Orioles that are powering up. The Red Sox struggled last year, but I think they're making moves to get back into contention.
Well, they're the odds-on favorite to win the division.
Yeah, exactly.
This season, so.
Exactly. And they're hungry because they see a depleted Yankees team, and they're ready to pounce.
They're young, they're hungry, and they loaded up with adding guys like Crochet in the offseason to bolster their lineup. And that's the type of a rotation, rather. And that's the addition you want to make, right? Adding a young, cost-controlled pitcher, not an aging, not cost-controlled pitcher. Look, and you guys touched on Anthony Rizzo, obviously a former pick of the Boston Red Sox. He had 8 homers last year. I don't think they're losing sleep over him. But here's what I'll say. This is a lineup that struggled mightily against the Dodgers, and the Dodgers pitching. So they thought, let's go get our own aces. But what they didn't get they didn't get the most important part of the Dodgers, which is Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Who didn't even pitch last year. And we've seen this in every major league. Stars win championships.
Yeah.
The team that has the most stars in any sport, even hockey, which is probably more of a team sport than any other, they win.
Yeah.
That's why the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup. It's why the Colorado Avalanche won a Stanley Cup. And it's why the Dodgers won a World Series. They had more stars than their opponent. It's not offense that wins championships. It's not defense that wins championships. It's star players. And the Yankees decided not to pay arguably their biggest star.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's star players that win championships. It's playing up to your stardom in the moments that matter and the clutch moments. Because
like Aaron Judge?
Well, that's what I'm saying, because like Yankees had stars. Like they had a star-studded lineup last year, and Aaron Judge had difficulty hitting those off-speed pitches.
I disagree with calling that a star-studded lineup.
It's not always a guarantee that stars win championships. You're talking to a Brooklyn Nets fan here who had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden on the same team.
I said stars.
And resulted in very little success.
So you're saying they aren't stars, Jack?
No, I'm saying that none of them had ever been the best player on a team that won a championship.
So are we all in agreement here that the outlook for the Mets is more positive going into this season?
Yeah.
Mets taking on Houston tomorrow at 4:10. Let's talk to our resident Mets fan, Jack Ziskin here. Jack, what do you think of the Mets going into this year?
There's going to be a lot of conversations about this rotation or lack thereof. And I'm going to be honest, they're all warranted. But here's the thing. Availability is the best ability. And the Mets have the best infield in baseball. They added Juan Soto, so they have the best lineup in baseball.
Yeah.
And while they're not spending a lot of money on their pitchers, that's a blessing and a curse. You don't want to spend your money, which is a finite resource, even for Steve Cohen, on guys who get hurt and miss entire seasons because of Tommy John surgery. And I'm not saying that position players don't get hurt and miss seasons. What I'm saying is it's much more important, at least in the regular season, to have bats than aces. If they need an ace by the playoffs, they can go get an ace at the deadline.
Is Juan Soto the missing piece for this team, though? Is this a team that can take out L.A. in the playoffs?
That's a loaded question. We're going to see how the Dodgers rotation looks. Here's what I'm going to say, though. You know, the Mets last made the World Series because they had dominant pitching. I don't think you can do that in today's game, especially with the DH of the National League and all that. It's just not... it's not winning baseball, you know? You need cost-controlled young pitchers, and you need big bats. The Mets have big bats. They have some cost-controlled pitchers. And if Senga is back in form and Holmes works out, I think they're in a decent spot. Not a great spot for pitching, but a decent one.
Yeah, I do agree, though, Jack. Like, the Mets team runs deep. They're having good performances in spring training from Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty. Of course, Francisco Lindor. His performance last year was stellar. So I really think that they're going to do very well this year. I mean, they are currently without Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil, and a couple of their starting pitchers, Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas. When those guys come back, like they're going to look even better. So
losing Manaea hurts.
Yeah. So what's the update on him? Because I'll be honest, I've seen he's out, but I don't know much about the situation.
I would have to double check what the update is. I know he's out for now, and we're all counting the days till he's back.
Well, let's turn our attention to the NHL. Because you got the Islanders and the Rangers both a point out in this wild card race. Talking to Jack here, Jack, you think either of these teams get in?
Look, could they get in? Yes. Is it in their best interest to get in? No. The Islanders traded arguably their second best center, somebody who a lot of fans consider to be their best player, or considered to be their best player, Brock Nelson, for a haul at the deadline. The roster responded by going on a run. They went from being at the bottom of the Eastern Conference to knocking on the doorstep. And if not for a very controversial, and what most fans across the NHL agree, bad call in a game against Columbus, they would have that point. So that's where they're playing. But here's the problem. The Islanders weren't supposed to win. They were supposed to lose, and I'm going to explain why. James Higgins. He's the best, or one of the best forward prospects to ever come out of Long Island, probably going to be the best. He would be the best overall if not for Adam Fox and Charlie McAvoy, two of the four right-handed defensemen to make the Five Nations roster. And he's a die-hard Islanders fan. His entire family is. They were supposed to lose games, end up in the bottom three, and get James Higgins. Instead, if they make the playoffs, which is a big if, they're heading for a first-round exit.
Yeah, I mean, they're only a point out, though, Jack. I mean, they very well could make the wild card. And you got the New York Rangers, like, trailing right behind them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were another team that people thought were going to slide and tank. And then they went out and made two big acquisitions during the season, Chris Kreider being one of them. So they're trying
Chris Kreider?
Yeah, I think
He's a lifelong Ranger.
Oh, I'm trying to. No, they were.
JT Miller. I think
that's who I'm thinking of. Yes, thank you. JT Miller is the one they brought in, but they were thinking about getting rid of Chris Kreider, and he stayed. So, like, they're looking to make a push too. What are your thoughts on the Rangers?
Well, look, a lot of fans are going to talk to you about games in hand. The Rangers have played 2 more games than the Islanders and Columbus, but there's a flip side to that. It's rest versus rust. And we've seen in recent years the Islanders have done it, actually, twice. Where a team that had played more games, they had like 10 down the stretch, that rest makes up for itself. It does. If you take, it's better to take 7 of your last 10, than 6 of your last 12. I'm not a math guy, but I know that much.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting if they make it. They're heading for a first round exit too. In all honesty, I think they both miss. I think they've both negatively impacted their draft status. But hey, at least they're not Buffalo.
Well, we have a lot of topics to get to. Just turning attention really quick to the NBA. Talking about the Knicks here resting at the 3 seed, 45-26 on the season. As we get close to that play-in tournament playoff time, do you think that you've seen enough from this team to think that they can compete with the likes of Boston and Cleveland in the East?
Yes.
I think they can. They definitely need a healthy Jalen Brunson, though. He's been out of the lineup for quite some time. But it does seem like they're starting to pick it up more recently.
Well, I mean, they should have him back. He'll be back for the playoffs. He'll be ready to go.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, they've been picking it up recently, though. Anunoby in their last game yesterday against Dallas. He had 35 points. Karl-Anthony Towns with a triple-double, 26, 12, and 11. And then Josh Hart, his 9th triple-double of the year, 16, 12, and 11. So, like, the guys are stepping up around Jalen Brunson being absent. So, hopefully that'll continue as he comes back. But, again, I think it's a thing that we've always talked about with the Knicks. Tom Thibodeau, always overplaying his guys. Will he give them the rest when they need it?
Well, Mikal Bridges doesn't care. Mikal Bridges is going to play all 82 games for 40-plus minutes.
When they traded Dante DiVincenzo, they essentially punted on their bench. Tyler Kolek has played well since they started having to move him into the lineup. The big issue with this team all season was front court depth with Mitchell Robinson sidelined. Now, there were rumors they wanted to trade Robinson and not DiVincenzo. If they could have, they would have. But that's not what happened. It takes time for teams to mesh.
Yeah.
We really weren't going to know what this team was until it was 60 games into the season. And with injuries, that has impacted chemistry. But this is what I will say. I don't think Cleveland's a world beater. I think they're a very good team. Do I think they have the wing depth? No.
Boston's a different story, though, on the other hand.
Yeah.
Boston is.
They've got the experience. They've got the depth. That's the one thing that Cleveland is lacking going into this playoffs is that playoff experience. The Knicks last year, they didn't get to the conference finals, but they're hungry. So I think with a healthy lineup, they're going to do good.
They would have though, if not for the injuries. Yeah. I think we all know that.
They have a good shot against the Cavs if they're healthy going into that series.
I think the one thing the Knicks probably regret, and he's been balling out for Phoenix, is their big man went to Marquette, played with Kolek, and the Knicks passed on him for Pacome Dadiet. Maybe they would have preferred taking a more NBA-ready player. Outside of that, though, they've been good.
And then again, really quick here. The state of New York football with the Giants getting 2 veterans in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. Is this a sign that they're going to draft Travis Hunter?
Maybe. I mean, because a lot of people have been saying they were going to draft Shedeur, and they still might draft Shedeur. But I think that would be really contentious having 3 guys in the locker room you just brought onto the team.
I don't think they're getting Shedeur. I think with
hang on a second.
Wilson, I think they're punting on quarterbacks in this draft.
It sounds like it.
I agree.
2 in a row.
And I want to get back to exactly what you were saying. But before you said 3 guys. You forgot one. Syracuse legend Tommy DeVito.
That's true. But I'm talking about guys that they signed. They signed 2, and they, with the Shedeur talk, could be bringing in a 3rd. So that means Tommy may have to go. I don't know.
Don't you dare say that.
Watch what the Giants are building here, though. I'm not going to predict too far into the future, but just hypothetically, bear with me here. Imagine a lineup in the future consisting of Malik Neighbors, Travis Hunter, and Arch Manning. How about that as a Giants team rolling into the 2028 season?
Honestly, now that you put it that way, they should get Travis Hunter. Honestly, because why not put a Manning in a Giants uniform and run it back?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that's worth considering. What I will say is that we don't know when he's even going to enter the draft. Manning, it could be 2 years. We might actually be talking about Lenora Sellers in that spot. Former Syracuse commit, Lenora Sellers.
After this short 4-minute break, we'll be back with March Madness. We're talking the Sweet 16. You're listening to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7. Watch us on Twitch at qsportstalk.com.
Thank you. All righty.
So, we're going to have to make March Madness relatively quick if we're going to
That's fine.
If we're just going to really briefly touch on Syracuse lacrosse, because we have to get all the commercial breaks in. So
baseball and hockey took too long.
Yeah, so that's why I was tapping you, because I was like, wrap up your point.
Yeah,
so,
no, it was hard for me to tell because.
Well, this just means wrap it up. That's the same.
Well, no. I got that. What I was confused by is what you were tracking, because you can't hear them, so I didn't realize if you were looking at the time or not. And we also just got caught behind on a couple things we had to correct.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
which I'm not shading anybody for that.
Okay, so March Madness, we'll do it this way. Biggest overachievers, biggest underachievers, and who do you have winning it all? We don't have enough time to preview every single game now, not with how long we took in the first 2 blocks.
Yeah.
So just biggest overachiever, biggest underachiever, and who do you have winning all based on the current bracket right now? Because both of our picks, St. John's is out.
Yeah.
You both picked St. John's?
Yes, we did.
I think we should just go over my picks.
At least in my main bracket, I did.
I think we should just go over my picks. Jeez. I'm joking, but like.
And then we'll go to a quick commercial break and then touch really quick on Syracuse lacrosse and stuff like that.
Yeah,
okay.
that's.
Well, by the way, real quick, I want the people that are watching on Twitch.
Ooh, we got comments.
Well, no, nothing really new, but I am curious to know. I'm sure there's some Giants fans, Jets fans. I know there's probably some Eagles fans in Syracuse. But, like, yeah, just the Giants and the Jets, some of the moves, the quarterback situations in both those places, like, has it moved the needle for them at all? Like, any thoughts on that? If you're interested in sharing, it'd be interesting to see what the fans think here in Syracuse.
Am I allowed to chime in if we don't got anything yet?
Sure.
The Giants, that's a complicated question. They added some more veteran offensive linemen. We saw how that worked out last year. It made a difference, but it didn't make enough of a difference. Not in time to save Daniel Jones, who they're going to be paying $20 million to this year. And they took that extra $20 million, and they spent it on Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And Wilson could actually end up costing $21 million.
Yeah, it's up.
Not all of that would count against the cap this year. But at this point, why didn't you just keep Jones? At least he's theoretically got upside. Theoretically.
I mean, they were overpaying him to start.
They were overpaying him, but that's not his fault.
That's
when
true.
you give Daniel Jones more than one weapon, maybe he would be a different player. We haven't seen him with more than one weapon. We've seen him with Saquon Barkley, and who was his top receiver? Darius Slayton? and we want to talk about how this is Daniel. We were talking about how this is Daniel Jones' fault.
He did have Malik Neighbors last year, though.
Yes, and who didn't he have?
Darius Slayton.
Saquon Barkley.
I'm kidding, yeah.
I know. Is it his fault they drafted Evan Neal? No.
Yeah.
I don't like the Giants' blame game, and I don't like what Dabble's done. I think he's going to be back in his old job next year when Joe Brady becomes the head coach.
Yeah, that's just a travesty for the Giants, though. The year they let Saquon go, he wins the Super Bowl. Like,
it's fitting.
That's really going to be eating away at the Giants fans.
I thought running backs don't matter, though. I thought you shouldn't spend money on them. Isn't that what everybody says?
Well, now Saquon's making over $20 million a year himself.
He's generational. They wasted money on Daniel Jones. They wasted money in other spots. And even with all the money they wasted on Daniel Jones, they still could have afforded to keep Barkley.
Well, before we come back, Daniel Jones is a Colt. Didn't the Colts just sign him?
Yeah, he's going to be competing with Richardson for that job. I think he'll play well.
Yeah, do you in a Colt uniform? You think he'll play well?
Yeah, I don't think
so too. I think their identity is a run-first team with Jonathan Taylor. Shane Steichen, I think, will maximize his potential.
And they got good receivers.
Yeah.
And they're going to get a tight end.
They're going to strike in the draft.
Warren.
7.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSports.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7 and on QSportsTalk.com. Sweet 16. That's tomorrow. Yep. Me and Teddy, before the tournament started, we had St. John's winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
And look how that turned out for us. And so we're going to turn to Jack here. Jack, I think I know who your pick is to win the whole thing, but why don't you tell the people?
Look, I just want to start out by saying that I was shaking my head the entire time. They said they picked St. John's. You don't pick teams that can't shoot. We don't got time for that. This is what I'll say.
You pick teams that play good defense. And
you pick teams that play good defense and shoot well. It's not mutually exclusive. Offense doesn't win games. Defense doesn't win games. Possession wins games. And who drives possession? Stars. So there's two teams that can win this. Duke and my alma mater, the University of Florida, the Gators. And they're my pick to win because they're more experienced, they're older, and this is the pinnacle of their careers. This is the highest Walter Clayton Jr. can rise. I think he plays in the NBA, and I think he'll carve out a solid career. But he's not going to be Cooper Flagg. It's just reality. And I think that Duke's youth will be what ends up costing them. I think we're going to see a very similar situation to when Jalen Suggs and Gonzaga fell to Baylor in the finals back in 2018.
Yeah. Well, I will just say this, like, now that St. John's is out, I do think that as a fully healthy Duke, Cooper Flagg playing very well, I find them very hard to stop, especially their defense. They are just very quick, and they're great at protecting the rim. So I think Duke is the outright favorite at this point, although I do see your point about Florida.
It's very narrow.
I do see your point about Florida, though. Like, I could very well see a Duke-Florida final.
That's my pick.
I will say the overachiever of this tournament, if we're talking that, is the team that my champion lost to, which was is Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas, St. John's, they didn't shoot the ball well. I think it was a historically bad shooting day for R.J. Lewis Jr. I mean, if he shot 8 for 17 in that game, they would have won the game. Like,
shot 8 for 17, he'd be a lottery pick, but he doesn't shoot 8 for 17 because he's R.J. Lewis. Yeah. Nobody on that team shoots particularly well, and the guys that do, their percentages go down in March because there's not adequate spacing around them.
But you can also make the argument that Kadari Richmond he fouled out way too early in that game.
That was a bad call.
16 minutes total. So, but Cedric, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, if you're asking me who the biggest overachiever is, we don't have really any true Cinderella teams left in the field. But I will say that BYU is a surprise that they're in there. They're going to play Alabama tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this is a team that was underdogs against VCU. They were underdogs against Wisconsin. And they're still right there in the field.
Yeah.
Underdogs against VCU, they were the 6th seed.
They were the 6th seed. But then if you actually look at
the betting lines,
what the betting odds were.
Is this Polymarket, or is this just in general?
No. A lot of people had VCU going into that game. I would say that out of the teams left in the field, they're the clear overachievers.
VCU was the fun pick. I'm going to be honest. I picked them too because madness, but they weren't. I had 2 or 3 brackets that I took seriously,
and then of course Arkansas. Yeah. But we've already.
One thing I will add real quick before we go to our next break is I think if because all the 1 seeds are in it, I think if any 1 seed is in danger, I think it's Auburn. I think Michigan is playing very well. They have great size, 2 7-footers that play very well, complementary basketball. One is a really good facilitator, almost like a point center. I think Auburn, they've had some trouble in this tournament. I mean, they've beaten who they've needed to beat. But Creighton, they were close with Creighton the whole game until the end.
Creighton's a good team.
And Creighton is a good team. So I think Michigan's an even better team. And I actually think Michigan, to be quite honest with you, is going to the Final Four. I think that they will win and get to the Final Four. I think they're going to lose a close one to Florida. That's my last take on the matter.
Give me Danny Wolf over Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but are you guys denying the talent that Duke has? Because Duke is clearly my pick right now to win the whole thing. I mean, Cooper Flagg, Connor Knippel, and Malawak, 3 top 10 picks likely in this year's NBA draft.
Malawak is not a consensus top 10 pick, and we talked about this before the show.
A lot of people have him going top 10.
A lot of people do. And if you want a rim roller and you want to spend a top 10 pick on that, he's your guy.
But we're not talking NBA draft right now. We're talking March Madness, and I think that this Duke team right now, obviously, I admit, me and Teddy, we were wrong about St. John's winning the whole thing, but I think that Duke is the team to beat. I think so too. Right now.
They're playing the best basketball as a team, and Cooper Flagg is healthy and playing well. I think with him on the team, you can't really stop him right now.
Well, Florida's going to try, and there's one thing I know for certain: don't bet against the Gator standard.
After this short 4-minute break, we'll be talking Syracuse lacrosse and Syracuse football. You're listening to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7. Watch us on Twitch at qsportstalk.com. Did I?
Thank you.
Did I say football?
You did. I was about to
You
say we
did.
don't have time
I meant to say softball.
We're not touching softball anyway. We don't got time for it.
Okay, we can skip softball. We can make one last point about football.
Let's just talk men's lacrosse and call it a day. I don't think we got time for anything else.
We'll talk men's lacrosse. We'll have like 3 minutes, so we'll do really quick men's lacrosse. Just acknowledge women's lacrosse, and then end the show with one last point about Syracuse football.
I mean, if you want to make a point about Syracuse football, I don't really know what we haven't touched on. There's not that much to say. It's spring football.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
No, it is. Yeah.
I also really
Somebody in the chat though is saying really quick on our March Madness stuff. They said don't sleep on Houston.
Yeah, the only one seed we didn't talk about. Actually.
Oh, don't sleep on Houston.
Well, no, I mean I was thinking about Houston. We just I didn't have a lot of time to touch on it.
The Big 12.
If Auburn is in trouble, I think the next one seed that's in trouble is Houston. I think Duke and Florida are definitely the strongest teams left in the field. Houston plays well, but they've cut it pretty close. I think Calvin Sampson, great coach. He gets the most out of his guys, but they've been cutting it close. So when you go against some powerhouses, I do think
they did have Gonzaga in the second round, or Gonzaga, I should say.
Yeah, but if they beat Purdue, which I think they'll beat Purdue, they got a hard
Handedly.
SEC matchup.
Thank God I was right. I said BYU plays Alabama tomorrow, then I remembered that the Sweet 16 is both Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I hope it's not Friday. I was 50-50 and I got it right. It is tomorrow.
Hey,
look, I just don't like that you keep saying Duke has 3 top 10 picks. They got 2. They don't.
They
don't.
I mean, I will say
going 1, Malawak's going 7, and Knippel's going 10.
Who's he going 7 to?
Who's he going 7 to?
Who?
You know what?
talking
If you
about
want
Malawak?
Mitchell Robinson in the top 10, then he's the guy for you.
Are you talking about Malawak? Who's he going to?
He's not even the best center in the draft, and he won't even acknowledge that Derek Queen's the best center in the draft. He won't acknowledge that Thomas Sorber has a chance to go ahead of him.
Is Derek Queen a center? I thought he was a forward.
No, he's a center.
I don't think you pay attention to mock drafts.
I pay very close attention, which is why on our last episode when you said...
Malawak has been in the top 10 in every single mock draft I've looked at for the last 3 months.
I mean, I've seen him outside of it multiple times.
I haven't even seen him outside of any of them.
Check The Athletic. Bashidi's had him outside of it for a while.
Let's just take a look here. We'll just...
Ooh, Hoops Hype. Gee, I wonder who at Hoops Hype knows more than former NBA Vice President of Basketball Operations with the Memphis Grizzlies, John Hollinger. I'm sure that Joe Schmo knows more.
Tap me when we come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let you.
And by the way,
no.
By the way, I'm sorry if I was a little condescending there. I was only because I meant to be.
Jack, you're fired.
Yeah.
You're not my boss.
You know what would be crazy? Who could get Malawak is I don't know if he would go if this team would be in the running for him.
Sixers could.
Oh, the Sixers.
Sixers is crazy.
No, but Sixers could.
If they're trading Embiid.
Yeah, but I don't think they would. I would think.
So you're drafting a backup center in the top 10?
Maybe the Nets. Well, the Nets have.
They have Claxton.
They have Knippel going at 6.
No. What about?
Yeah.
What about
Knippel's a beauty.
Phoenix?
Derek Queen at 9. Okay. This is one
like
that
I
has
said.
Malawak outside the top 10. But last I checked,
They have him
he
at
was
14.
7. Yeah, well, the other one I saw him had him at 7. So.
Yeah, well, if you're taking him at 7, I think you're not going to have your job for that long.
Well, it's
nothing against him. He's just not going to be the highest ceiling player there.
No, but we were talking yesterday that the March Madness definitely can lower or raise draft stock. And
mainly
so
for guards.
Dude, you never know. I mean,
how many seconds do we?
Frank Kaminsky.
30.
Okay.
So
to your point.
But Malawak, if he plays well and Duke goes all the way, I mean, you never know.
2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
2 minutes for men's lacrosse. You got it.
Okay.
55-20 is the cutoff, Cedric.
I know that.
I don't know what you know. No, I genuinely just... I'm the newcomer, remember? And while you did say I'm fired, you're the one who hired me.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7 and on QSportsTalk.com. We've reached the end of our show here, but really quick before we go, we're going to talk a little bit about Syracuse men's lacrosse, a team that was the number 2 team in the country going into this preseason poll. They've underperformed expectations just a little bit, but still at a top 8 team and still, a good amount of games left to play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've won 4 straight, so they're on a hot streak. And they're really getting great performances out of some of their guys. Trey Deer's stepping up, having 8 goals in the last 2 games. And Joey Spallina, second in points in the entire country. He is balling out.
Look, there's a long line of 22s that played for Syracuse, not the least of whom is Gary Gate. Another one, Casey Powell, the best attackman of all time in the MLL. And I know the MLL is defunct now. I know it's the PLL now. But irregardless, this is a guy who had 5 goals, added 6 assists. And I'm not a math guy, but I'm able to figure out that 5 plus 6 equals 11. That's the most points any Syracuse player has had since Powell in 1997. Joey Spallina is generational. And I said it at the beginning of the season, if they don't win a national championship this year, they'll win it next year. But with the way he's playing, throw out the early loss to the Terrapins.
Well, what do you think the ceiling is for this team, either of you guys? Do you think this is a team that still competes for a national championship? I say yes, don't give up on them.
I think so, too. I think the formula for them is Spallina's facilitating the offense, and then they're shooting very well from the left side of the goal this year. The right side from their left, shooting with their left hand, I should say. And then they just got to go downhill, get Owen Hiltz going to the left shooting. They'll do good.
And that'll do it for this edition of Newhouse Afternoon. 3 new hosts tomorrow. We'll be back in 2 weeks. The sports show with Cody Mack is next.
This is our